Since the moment humanity became aware of itself, the first question, and also the last, has always been, who am I? Why do I exist? That very question opened the entire history of the path. The path here is not merely a single religion. It is every road, every faith, every belief, every spiritual system humanity has created to face the unease of being alive. Human beings seek the path, first of all, out of fear of sickness, of loss, of death. When standing before what cannot be controlled, we search for a refuge, a promise, that there is a peaceful realm beyond death, that some power watches over us, that life carries a meaning beyond its imperfections. Fear makes us cling to the path as a child clings to its mother's hand in the dark. Yet not only fear drives us, we also seek the path out of inner emptiness. To live merely to eat, to work, to survive, what meaning is there in that? When we can no longer find purpose in our days, we long for something greater, beyond our reach, heaven, nirvana, liberation. The path becomes an answer to that thirst, sometimes vague, sometimes tender, but always a response to our yearning. Through suffering, too, we are drawn to the path. Desires unfulfilled, anger unextinguished, delusion upon delusion in daily life. When the mind is restless, we seek a way that promises peace. When the world is chaotic, we look for an order that restores balance. It is suffering itself that has pushed humanity toward the path, as a patient turns to medicine. We might say, the path arises from the very cracks within human consciousness. Wherever there are people, there is the path, for it is the way by which humankind confronts its own limits, helplessness, and pain. Yet seeing it thus, another question must be asked. Is the path merely a crutch against fear and suffering, or is it the deeper truth that one can awaken to and see for oneself? Right now, when we say the path is a means, we acknowledge this. The path arises from the human need to heal a real suffering, restlessness, emptiness, and ignorance. A means is what we use to cross a certain stretch of the way. Teachings, to illuminate; practice, to refine the mind; virtue, to preserve; ritual, to remind; and community, to support. In that role, the path is as precious as a staff for one who stumbles, a map for one who is lost. The value of the means does not lie in itself, but in its power to bring the practitioner closer to truth. Danger begins when the means is deified into the end. The mind, craving certainty, easily turns every tool into an identity. I belong to this path. I practice that method. I have attained this experience. Once the means becomes a label and a support for the self, the spiritual journey starts to drift off course. Instead of growing lighter, we begin to carry more baggage, arguments to defend, symbols to boast of, rituals to distinguish ourselves, and subtle spiritual achievements to secretly compare. The mechanism of attachment works more subtly than we imagine. From a single helpful teaching arises blind faith, which soon hardens into dogma, pressed upon every situation. From one genuine moment of peace, the mind projects and grasps, seeking to recreate that refined joy, calling it the right way. From a supportive community, a boundary quietly forms, those within and those without. Common biases, confirmation bias, herd mentality, and the sunk cost fallacy all weave together into an invisible wall. Once we have invested too much time and pride into my path of practice, looking back becomes almost impossible. The consequence of attachment is not merely academic disagreement, it distorts the essential aim of the way, clarity and freedom. An attached mind becomes irritable when questioned, fearful when the teaching is challenged, and proud when it believes itself right. Its sensitivity and compassion turn into judgment, its fluid wisdom hardens into formula, and the living pulse of reality is replaced by repeated doctrinal slogans. Thus, suffering because of life is replaced by suffering because of the path. We cling to precepts as if to a shell, to rituals as if to face and form, to spiritual experiences as if to rare treasures. To study the Dharma and to practice the way, if rightly seen, is not an achievement to display, but like a patient taking medicine. No one boasts of drinking medicine and claims to be holier than the healthy. Likewise, a practitioner practices simply because they recognize within the tumor of greed, anger, and delusion, and need the Dharma as a treatment. Once this truth is seen, the heart naturally becomes humble, for there is no reason left to compare. Who is more diligent, who has attained higher states, since all are merely taking medicine for the shared illness of humankind. There are clear signs when attachment takes root. refusal to listen to anything contrary, mistaking ritual for liberation, equating morality with rigid codes, looking down on others, boasting, openly or subtly, about spiritual attainments, quietly despising ordinary life, neglecting basic duties to family and society, and justifying it all under the name of practice. When such signs appear, the means has overshadowed the truth. The finger has been mistaken for the moon. The map has covered the territory. From the view of the ultimate, where do we go after death, is far less important than who are we while we live. When seeing becomes transparent, the desire to reserve a better place naturally falls away, for it was born from the fear of losing oneself. Liberation is not found in a ticket to another realm, but in the dissolution of the one holding the ticket. And the paradox is this: when we are no longer obsessed with the destination, each moment of the present is already a place untouched by fear and grasping. That very quality, if anything continues, is the only thing that truly can continue. Philosophy of the heart does not reject tradition. It simply restores fair weight to what can be directly realized. Our attitude in this very moment. If there truly is a next life, living clearly now is the best seed for it. If there is none, living clearly now is the most complete gift for this human life. In both possibilities, to give importance to direct realization and to hold metaphysical speculation lightly is to keep the path in its true place, to purify seeing, not to thicken promises. So what is the path really? What remains of it? If we take the path as a destination, we will wander endlessly. If we treat it as a possession, we lose it the very moment we name it. In its deepest sense, the path is neither a doctrine to believe in, nor a system to join. It is the quality of seeing things as they truly are, and the natural way of living that flows when such seeing is present. Simply put, the path is the transparency of awareness toward all arising and passing, and the straightness of action when no longer pulled by greed, fear, or pride. To use the path as a means requires a lucid intelligence, one that knows how to borrow without depending, to learn without becoming a slave, to practice without turning practice into an identity. Any practice that helps the mind become clear and gentle, that reveals cause and effect in each moment, that loosens grasping and possession, that practice is truly worth using. Any practice that nourishes fear, fanaticism, or division should be put down. The true measure lies not in the name of the teaching, nor in the lineage or the teacher, but in the fruits of the present moment: clarity, freedom, compassion, humility. The image of the raft was once used to remind us of this. Carry it when you must cross the river, but once across, lay it down. No one in their right mind would carry the raft up the mountain as lifelong baggage. The map is the same, wonderful before you meet the terrain, useless if you keep your face pressed to it and forget the road beneath your feet. A thorn may be used to remove another thorn, but no one keeps both thorns as precious treasures. A true means is like salt in water. It dissolves completely, leaving no trace of "I am right." Does non-attachment mean no practice? No. Non-attachment means to practice with a learner's heart, to verify through lived experience, to stay ready to adjust, and never build a self around the teaching. When a breathing method helps you see body and mind, use it. When a ritual reminds you toward goodness, use it. When a single phrase illuminates a delusion, use it. But always remember, the aim is to see things as they are. Everything else is just a bridge, a ladder, a raft, a lamp. At the ultimate point, even the word path should be light as air, for if truth is already revealed in every trembling of life, then names are only temporary signposts. Once the light is clear enough, set the name down. Then the means has fulfilled its purpose, to bring one safely past the bend of danger and then vanish like a wisp of smoke. What remains is only a free step upon the ground of reality, needing no title, no badge, no proof. Does a good and happy life need the path? So does a good and happy person need the path? First of all, we must honor the wholeness of a healthy human life, to work honestly, to care for one's family, to contribute to the community, to live with balance and simplicity. Such a life is already the fruit of countless wholesome conditions: education, environment, temperament, and personal effort. On the moral and social level, there is nothing missing and nothing to fix. If the path is seen merely as a tool to make one a decent human being, then in this case, there is no further goal to pursue. But what kind of wholeness are we speaking of? There is a subtle difference between the order born of favorable conditions and the order born of insight. The first is like a house built in a calm climate, where the winds are gentle and the rains mild. The second is a foundation that endures storms, unshaken and resilient. A good person may be living within an optimal constellation of causes and conditions, but seeing things as they truly are is an inner capacity to recognize impermanence and non-self within every configuration. There are broadly three kinds of peace. First, peace from circumstance, steady work, harmonious relationships, good health. The order of life itself creates calm. Second, peace from skill, emotional intelligence, clear boundaries, wise priorities. This is the craft of living, precious and practical. Third, peace from insight, the direct seeing that every feeling, thought, and self-image arises, abides, and ceases. Stability lies in awareness itself, not in what is being known. All three may coexist, but they are not the same. The first two depend on conditions and technique. The third is grounded in the truth of how things unfold. One way to test this is through the great upheavals of human life, the loss of loved ones, prolonged illness, the fall of reputation, mistakes of one's own making, or the approach of death. Peace from circumstance fractures the moment the condition is removed. Peace from skill may last longer, but tires when the event exceeds calculation. Peace from insight does not erase the storm, but keeps the axis upright. The path remains the path, but without panic, without the need to invent another story for self-protection. To need the path, in this sense, is not to add rituals or labels, but to have a constant axis of reference amidst endless change. The path is like a transparent mirror, revealing the structure of joy and sorrow, gain and loss, success and failure, before the mind brands them with names. When this axis is firm, a good person does not need to become a practitioner. They simply continue living their ordinary life, but from a clearer dimension, acting without clinging to the role, loving without fear of loss, letting go without laziness, admitting mistakes without collapse. Even a wholesome life carries its beautiful risks. Prolonged virtue can crystallize into a self-image hard to see through. I am a good person. That image silently demands protection, reacting against anything that scratches it. When challenged, we may defend our virtue instead of the truth. When faced with injustice, anger under the banner of righteousness may obscure the understanding of karma and causes within ourselves. When someone suffers in a way we have not, our compassion may shrink into judgment. These do not make us less good. They simply reveal that the good self is still a subtle form of attachment. A few reflections can help discern this without turning anyone into a moral measure. First, the degree of dependency on conditions. Does peace collapse when a key element is lost? Second, openness to impermanence. Can one set down a current role when life calls for another? Third, the capacity to face suffering, to look directly at one's own and others' pain without denial or embellishment. Fourth, the flexibility of wisdom. Are principles still serving reality, or have they become formulas imposed upon it? Fifth, the depth of loving kindness. Does goodness expand in adversity or only bloom in comfort? Sixth, the relation to achievement and reputation. When truth and image conflict, which do we protect? If these qualities stand naturally firm, one may say, such a person is already living the essence of the path, even without ever knowing its name. The way can be understood through three interconnected dimensions. On the level of principle, the way is the law of reality's operation. Every phenomenon arises through conditions, exists for a while, and changes. There is no fixed self that governs. On the level of awareness, the way is the ability to see this directly, to know as things arise and cease. When a feeling arises, know it arises. When it fades, know it fades. When a thought appears, know it appears. When it passes, know it passes, without adding the story of me around it. On the level of living, the way is a way of relating that does not thicken the self and does not burden others' hearts. Doing what is right when it needs to be done, letting go when it is time, taking responsibility for the outcomes, and expanding compassion where it is hardest to open. Thus, the way is both simple and demanding. It is simple because it asks for nothing more than a mind that is true and aware, right now. It is demanding because ignorance clings very skillfully, It loves to disguise itself as I understand, I am right, or I am practicing. When ignorance thins out, we do not gain a new identity. We simply shed layers of concealment. For that reason, the way does not make anyone special. It makes one so ordinary that there is no longer any need to be special. The way can be recognized in the quality of one's living, rather than in words. The mind becomes clear not because it has more concepts, but because it has fewer confusions. Less mixing of emotion with truth, less mistaking of interpretation for reality. Freedom grows not because we can do whatever we want, but because we are no longer compelled to chase the contents of our own mind. Loving kindness expands not through slogans, but through the ability to be fully present with another's suffering, without defense. Humility takes root because we see that all goodness within us is the fruit of countless conditions, nothing to be proud of. Responsibility becomes clear because we understand that every thought, word, and deed is a seed being sown into continuation. The way is not apart from ordinary life. It reveals itself in simple, upright living, caring for parents without seeking credit, raising children with awareness rather than fear turned into expectation, working honestly, saying no to what is unwholesome, even when no one sees. When faced with a choice between one's image and the truth, the way leads us to choose truth, quietly, without drama. When loss comes, the way does not demand that we pretend not to suffer. It allows the pain to complete its own course while keeping a quiet center that is not drowned by it. Methods are necessary, but only as tools to polish seeing. Meditation, contemplation, reading sutras, service, and moral precepts are all excellent means if they thin attachment and increase clarity. No method is truly effective if it strengthens the sense of I am superior. A simple self-check. After a period of practice, have we become lighter, more open, more empathetic, more courageous, and more honest? If yes, we are walking within the way. If not, we are walking within a frame, and the way remains outside that frame. The way does not oppose happiness, but neither does it trade truth for happiness. Sometimes it brings a vast, quiet joy. At other times, it asks us to face the shadows we once avoided. The serenity of the way does not depend on things going smoothly. It arises from no longer needing to construct a story to preserve an image of ourselves. From that ground, we can rejoice when it's time to rejoice, grieve when it's time to grieve, do what needs to be done, and step beyond what is past. The way belongs to no one and takes no sides. Every name, tradition, and symbol can serve as a doorway, as long as it opens into the room of truth. Once the room is open, the person standing inside no longer cares what color the door was. Thus, the way is not an addition to life. It is life's own transparency when layers of obscurity fall away. And as long as even one veil is lifted in this very moment, the way is present, quietly yet unmistakably, in every breath, every glance, every step. No one is ever required to walk any particular path. It is simply the inner need of wisdom, the longing to stand upon what is real, rather than upon the fortune of conditions. And that alone is enough for the way to be present. No extra rituals, only more authenticity in each ordinary step. A person living fully in the present moment may have no reason to need the way at all. Yet many traditions offer another motive, to prepare for the next life. Here the story turns, and it must be examined with clarity. Throughout history, the idea of life after death has served as a moral horizon. It comforts the suffering, motivates goodness, and offers a map of meaning beyond the boundaries of this life. On a social level, it helps regulate behavior. On a personal level, it helps one endure losses that seem unbearable. Therefore, to question belief in the afterlife is not to deny its moral or psychological value, but to look deeply and ask, does this belief truly bring us closer to truth, or merely delay our encounter with the present? The issue, first of all, is epistemological. Rebirth lies beyond the direct verification of present experience. When something cannot be verified, the mind easily turns it into a bond of hope, a promise of the future used to replace the work that must be done here and now. At that point, practice quietly becomes a bargain, doing this now in order to receive that later. Life itself is turned into a means, and the goal is pushed out of reach. The result is habitual postponement. One no longer needs to see ignorance in a moment of anger today, only to believe that someday they will arrive in a pure realm. Yet, Seen through cause and effect, such postponement contradicts itself. If rebirth exists, the quality of one's next life is not a random gift fallen from the sky, but the direct continuation of the habits of this very mind. A mind filled with grasping, fear, and avoidance today is already planting seeds for its continuation. To wish for a peaceful result while endlessly sowing avoidance is against the law of nature. If there is no rebirth, then delaying our encounter with truth is even more absurd, for we have only this one chance to live fully. Both cases reveal the same error. To center the future and forget the present is to lose the way. There is, however, a simple yet decisive test. Set side by side two models of the universe, one with rebirth and one without. In the first, living with clear awareness in each moment, seeing birth and death within body and mind, loosening attachment and widening compassion, these are the seeds for any wholesome continuation. In the second, that same mindful life already fulfills a complete human existence, whole, free of debt, and without regret. Thus, a practice grounded in the present moment is the most skillful path in either view. It needs no wager on metaphysical certainty. Of course, belief in the afterlife still holds value in its beginnings. It can restrain wrongdoing before wisdom arises, comfort despair before strength matures, and establish moral discipline when the mind is still scattered. But that belief becomes a danger when it nourishes fear. Fear of punishment after death, instead of clarity about cause and effect here and now, when it encourages subtle self-centeredness, doing good merely to earn blessings for me later, or when it is used as a tool of power, selling merit, or labeling one's own side as the pure realm. At such times, morality becomes the arithmetic of merit, and truth is replaced by ritual formality. A healthy standard can help us examine any belief about the afterlife. If it increases clarity of vision, expands compassion toward those who differ, deepens responsibility for present actions, and reduces fear of gain and loss, then it is worth keeping. But if it closes the mind, breeds pride, delays direct seeing, or clings to rituals for comfort, then that belief should be gently set down. This standard does not oppose faith. It simply reminds us, faith must serve truth, not replace it. The way, or no way at all, in the end, does not demand an answer, but a standard by which to examine one's life. When the way is understood as a system to rely on, some will need it, others will not. But when the way is understood as the clarity of seeing and the straightness of living, it ceases to be something to possess and becomes a quality to embody for anyone wishing to stand steady amid change. Thus, the question is not about need or no need, but whether our axis of orientation is grounded in what is real or in conditions that constantly shift. On the relative level, a life that is kind and content is already a precious fulfillment. Nothing more is required. On the ultimate level, that kindness becomes enduring when it no longer needs to be propped up by the image of me, when joy no longer depends on self-congratulatory stories, when suffering no longer needs justification. If the way is that capacity, the capacity to see directly, to let go rightly, and to take responsibility without evasion, then the way is present in the smallest choices of each day, requiring no grand display. From here, one may keep a simple covenant with oneself, to lessen belief and deepen seeing, to use a method when it brightens the mind and set it down when it burdens the heart. Let every relationship, word, and financial decision become a testing ground for authenticity. When peace no longer depends on a single condition, when kindness does not shrink before opposition, when a mistake meets an apology accompanied by a plan to make it right, that alone is enough to know that the way is at work, even when no one names it. Each person will find their own rhythm. Those who feel sufficient, let it be enough. Those who feel fragile, awaken more clarity. Those who are hesitant, allow yourself to observe a little longer. No one is forced to walk the same path, but everyone can verify the quality of their own steps. Mindful Breath Radio chooses to stand at this point, neither advising you to follow, nor telling you to abandon. Every tradition has its own light and shadow. What matters is not the robe you wear, but the eyes that still see, the heart that still keeps warm, and the spine that is straight enough to live authentically in this world. And if one day you no longer worry about which path you are following, yet can still walk freely, love without calculation, and live neatly in each moment, then that day, without anyone proving it, you are already on the path. Grateful for the companionship of your heart. The text reflects on the way, not as a particular religion or belief system, but as every spiritual journey humanity has created to confront the unease of existence. People seek the way out of fear of illness, loss, and death, out of the emptiness of a meaningless life, and out of suffering caused by greed, anger, and delusion. At first, the way serves as a means to find peace, but once the mind clings to that very means, it becomes a burden. The author warns against turning teachings, rituals, or spiritual experiences into the ego's identity for comparison and judgment. True practice is not to become a practitioner, but to recognize ignorance within oneself, to live humbly, gently, and mindfully in ordinary life. The genuine way does not lie in forms or doctrines, but in the quality of seeing, the insight into impermanence, non-self, and compassion expressed through simple acts. When both name and method are let go, one touches true freedom, walking through life without the need to be called a follower of the way.